I believe to be the 10 best indie games on the Nintendo Switch. Number 10, 2064 Read-Only Memories. Okay, this one isn't actually on the Switch yet, but it'll be on there in April, and I'm not expecting a catastrophic disaster of a port when we're only talking about a visual novel. Originally released as just Read-Only Memories, 2064 is a science fiction visual novel inspired by Snatcher, set in the future where robots are not only hanging around, but have obtained sentience. You play an unnamed journalist who's attracted the attention of a robot called Turing, oh cute, who asks for your help tracking down their creator who has been kidnapped. From there you meet a whole host of interesting characters and run into all the twists and turns you'd expect from this kind of game. The only real drawback is how short it is, and I don't just mean that in the sense that I wish it were longer. I mean, it feels like it ends a good hour or so sooner than you'd expect to, which kinda gives away its roots as a Kickstarter-funded game. Still, other than that, 2064 is a fantastic game and one of the best visual novels I've ever played. Number 9, The Flame in the Flood. The Flame in the Flood isn't a game for everyone. It's rough around the edges. Again, this is a Kickstarter-funded game we're talking about, but its roughness comes not from poor quality, but ambition. That may sound like an overstatement considering this is just a survival game, but at the same time, this isn't just a survival game. Where many games in the survival genre are all about simply trying to keep your soulless avatar alive for as long as possible, in The Flame in the Flood, you have a purpose. To get your character, Scout, and her dog, look, you know I'm terrible at pronouncing names by now, Aesop, through the flooded remains of a post-apocalyptic America. This isn't just a game about surviving, it's one about traveling and finding purpose in a world that is no longer our own. Plus, it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just look at it. Ugh. Number 8, Unbox Noobie's Adventure. Unbox Noobie's Adventure might be one of the better 3D platformers you've never heard of. Originally released on PC in September 2016, you play as a cardboard box. But this box isn't anthropomorphized, it's just a regular 6-sided block of dead trees. That means you ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan, so jumping in the traditional sense isn't an option. That is what makes this game so special. Instead of jumping or even walking, you instead roll yourself along. Here, jumping doesn't work like a regular 3D platformer. Instead, you operate more like a Russian nesting doll. You have a bunch of smaller boxes within yourself, and when you jump, you sort of eject the next set of boxes out from your outermost shell, propelling that next set up into the air. That vaguely makes sense. That means the number of jumps you can make is limited by how many boxes you have in your set at a given time. The missions are kind of bland, but this is a 3D collectathon platformer, and exploring the 4 somewhat large open worlds is an absolute blast. I already did a video on this game a while back, and I suggest you check that out if you want to hear more about this hidden gem. Number 7, Flint Hook. I'll let you in on a little secret right now. This is the only 2D pixel art platformer on this list. No Shovel Knight, no Owlboy, no whatever else. I really don't dig these games, I never have and I never will. There's a reason I didn't get into gaming until the PS2 came out. So that should give you a pretty good indication of how much I like Flint Hook, that it's all the way at number 7 on this list. The reason for that is simple. It combines many different elements and combines them in a perfect way. The pixel art isn't there simply for nostalgia baiting or to save money or even laziness. It's an honest, artistic choice, and like Hyper Light Drifter, it's stunningly gorgeous. But the pixel art alone isn't what I like about Flint Hook. It takes the typical 2D platformer gameplay and twists it like a pretzel, adding in treasure hunting and roguelike elements to create something that feels different. It's not actually all that unique, but with how well constructed the overall package is, with a thick layer of charm, it feels like nothing I've ever played before. Number 6, Snake Pass. Snake Pass is another 3D platformer, and just like Unbox, it's pretty different from what you'd expect. Also like Unbox, you control a character with no legs, but instead of playing as a cardboard cube, you instead play as a snake, though sadly not Snake. The game jettisons the idea of jumping everywhere in favor of crawling. Rather than jumping over an obstacle, you need to find something to slither along to get across. Instead of jumping up to a higher ledge, you have to find something that you can grip and then climb up that instead. It's a neat mechanic, one that does kinda get old after a while, but as a single, relatively short game, this gimmick has enough staying power to make Snake Pass a fantastic little game. Number 5, Oxenfree. Oxenfree is exactly the kind of game I love. No over-the-top action or resource management or things that are in other video games probably. This is a straight-up story-driven game full of player choice that controls the narrative. The thing that sets Oxenfree apart from so many other games like this is the conversation system. You don't just stand there ramrod stiff while another character talks at you, waiting until they finish before you can make your decision. Instead, you and the person, sometimes multiple people, are free to walk around and explore the level as you're talking. You can also freely interrupt the person or people you're talking to at any time or ignore them, which will in turn affect how they view you. So your actions matter just as much as what you're saying. You could be saying something nice to somebody, but if you're cutting them off midway through their sentence, they may still get mad. Again, this isn't the game for everyone, there's not a ton going on outside the story, but it is a great story, even if you're not really a fan of supernatural mystery stuff. Number 4, Undertale. What is there to say about Undertale that hasn't already been said? This game is just brilliant. Simple as that, with an engrossing narrative, whimsically deep and interesting characters, only decent gameplay if we're being honest here, but the way in which it's implemented and incorporated into the story is brilliant. It's the kind of game that's so smart it feels like it's not actually all that smart, but that other games are just really dumb, even though that's not really the case, if that makes sense. Undertale is great. That's just how it is. Go play it right now if you haven't already. Number 3, Night in the Woods. Fitting nicely into my other selection of narrative-driven games, Night in the Woods is basically the 2017 equivalent of Undertale, a Kickstarter-funded story game that came out of nowhere to melt the hearts of gamers everywhere. Okay, Night in the Woods didn't become as popular as Undertale, but I think it's a slightly better experience overall. There's not nearly as much going on in the gameplay department. In fact, the gameplay in Night in the Woods is pretty shallow, but that's not the point. Instead, Night in the Woods is all about that story, featuring May, a college student coming home for the first time in years, as she tries to reintegrate herself back into her old home. But startling revelations are to be made about her family, friends, and even herself. For the millionth time, Night in the Woods probably isn't for everybody, but if you're up for a wonderful, down-to-earth story about finding yourself, this one will be right up your alley. Or if you're a furry. Number 2, The Sexy Brutale. The Sexy Brutale is a murder mystery taking place over the course of a single day at a luxurious casino and hotel. Playing as the mysterious Boone, it's up to you to not solve 10 murders, but prevent them from ever happening. Here, your greatest tool isn't a magnifying glass, but a pocket watch that allows you to go back in time and observe events throughout the casino hotel mansion. That's what I love about this game so much. Solving cases isn't about finding clues or interrogating suspects like a typical Sherlock Holmes-esque detective game. Instead, you have to rely on sheer observation alone. You watch people's day unfold through literal keyholes, or you can listen in on them through doors or walls. Doing so will clue you in on how they each deal with their personal crises and their routine. What really makes The Sexy Brutale stand out is its story. While unassuming at first, it slowly gains momentum over time and becomes a bigger and bigger factor. The ending twist works beautifully, and it really puts everything that happens in the game in a completely different context, making you instantly want to replay the game with that knowledge in mind. The Sexy Brutale is a great game, and it's a travesty it's flown under so many people's radars. Go pick this game up right now if you haven't already, you owe it to yourself, even if you're an asshole who makes list videos on YouTube that nobody likes. Number 1, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Ha! Can't dislike this video now, can you? Ha! Checkmate, atheists! Oh, damn it. Support us on patreon.com/Clickist for more videos just like this, or visit us at Clickist.com for all the latest news, reviews, investigations, interviews, and opinion pieces on indie gaming. Thank you.